When the first season of Overlord came out, it got promoted as a subversion when it comes to isekai type of anime by telling the same trite story from the perspective of the bad guy. Despite being the same old premise of a guy getting trapped in a video game where he's overpowered and all the chicks love him, it shows what it's like to be in the role of the final boss any other protagonist would normally go after. There, see? It's different from other isekai! 10 out of 10 in originality! Until other isekai did the exact same gimmick. With novelty out of the way, other elements had to carry the show, and the story wasn't one of them, as it's hardly doing much with its own premise. There have been 3 seasons so far that barely had anywhere in terms of an objective. Skeletor-san claims he wants to find others of his guild and return home, but he never really goes somewhere with that. And the truth is, he loves being in this world where he's the most powerful and feared of them all. That's the usual fake premise most modern isekai use as an objective. He's a nobody in the real world. Why would he want to go back to that, instead of staying in the video game where everybody either loves him or fears him, and where he's powerful enough to do pretty much anything he likes? He only pretends not to like being the bad guy during the early parts, before eventually settling with the idea of being a typical megalomaniac final boss. That is the appeal and why so many like the show for, as an unapologetic empowerment fantasy for gamers. 10 out of 10 in creativity! And then the second season came, and it was something completely different, which ended up alienating anyone who was watching Overlord for a standard power fantasy trip. It mostly focused on showing what the good guys are doing, and how they try to defeat the Overlord, only to fail every single time. Suppose that this is done for showing how even minor characters can have an important role in the world, and for the setting to open up not through narration or a typical hero who is adventuring, but by seeing the actual world from the perspective of the NPCs. There, see? It's different from other isekai. 10 out of 10 in innovation. And it doesn't matter because said NPCs are not important in the grand scheme of things. Mamra-kun can easily obliterate all of them without a power-up since the first episode. As much as the show struggles to make them seem like they matter, or that they affect the world with their actions, they are nobodies compared to the main character, and are instantly allying with him when he shows up and wipes the floor with them. It got pretty tiresome for anyone who was in it just to see Ghost Rider Dono and his over-the-top floor guardians, because they are infinitely more powerful and memorable than anyone else outside of that crypt they are all living in. Who cares about world building if it's not about characters that matter or offer anything to the plot? 10 out of 10 in lore. There is plot, and there is plot progression for which the author of Overlord doesn't care about, because he was just making up random factions that don't do shit or affect the schemes of Kel'Thuzad-sensei. The third season was more of the same shit, only with far more attacking that didn't mean anything, and a lot less care about the visuals, which made the battles to look like shit because of the terrible CGI. Texiek-senpai stops giving a damn and murders hundreds of thousands of people that have no emotional connection with the watcher, because they don't matter. It's a bunch of nobodies who came together, had boring dialogues that didn't advance the story in any way, and then died without leaving a mark on a setting that has dozens of factions, none of which matter in the long run. 10 out of 10 in characterization. The only thing people wanted to see more of is Momonga, that is his actual name in the game, and his floor guardians who are crazy psychopaths and sexualized bimbos. And they got very little of it because the plot was constantly being interrupted by meaningless bullshit that led nowhere. And let's be honest, the protagonist was the strongest creature in the world. There was no challenge, therefore there was no tension, therefore there was nothing to maintain your interest outside of lowbrow humor and one-dimensional sexualized bimbos. And that's the kind of shit you can find in any modern isekai. 10 out of 10 in quality.
It's often been said about Overlord that the best part of the show is not the main character, Momonga himself, or even his overpowered guardians, but the dilemmas and drama that surround the lives of the weaker characters in the world.
Bullshit! Whoever says that is lying, since if you check around why most have dropped the second season, it's because it shifted its focus to characters they don't care about. Whoever liked the first season of Overlord had nothing to do with minor characters. They liked it because of the main character being overpowered as fuck, blowing shit up, being surrounded by the strongest guardians, all the chicks wanting to have sex with him, and being in reality a nobody's salaryman.
Is not just weak characters struggling against one another, but why they struggle, and for what reasons.
And by the end of the day, they still don't matter because they are not achieving something significant. This is the major difference with something like Fullmetal Alchemist, where most of the secondary characters are vital in advancing the plot, as well as helping the protagonists in various ways. The minor characters in Overlord do not contribute in anything, because the protagonist can do anything he wants even without their help, or even when millions of them are opposing him. The end result is the same and they end up taking up space and screen time without offering something significant.
Even if their issues aren't world-threatening, they are interesting by virtue of watching underdogs overcome obstacles they usually can't through sheer willpower.
In that case, you just like the concept of underdogs and not because the show cares about them. The first episodes of any series are meant to set priorities straight, and Overlord was never about Naruto wannabes. It is not the same thing as the Chunin exam where everybody was treated as an equal and had a similar backdrop story.
In the end, it's easier to connect to and root for the underdog when you're watching media. And while it's also very interesting to see One Punch Man and Momonga and Superman absolutely destroy their problems with ease, you can only take so much of it before it becomes rote and boring, because there's no stakes.
Hey man, I agree. There is no tension because the show doesn't care about tension, in the same way Keion doesn't care about whether the lolis will manage to play music by drinking tea and eating cookies. It's the pretentiousness that makes it bad when it wants you to care about things that do not matter. Which is exactly what you're doing in this video, you pretentious overthinker!
We feel nothing for whether they succeed or fail.